Do teams agree? Assuring the validity and fairness of peer assessment through quantifying the extent of teammate agreement. Teachers have long used group projects to improve students' teamwork skills and future-ready employability. Furthermore, teammate peer assessment is increasingly adopted to improve the fairness of the grades awarded for a group project and to minimise the risk of freeloading and other dysfunctional teamwork behaviours. One area of concern is the challenge of providing evidence that a specific peer assessment event is a fair and valid basis for determining students' grades. Validation evidence is increasingly sought by professional educational programs. For example, engineering educators seek evidence to assure their graduates meet the professional competencies for teamwork and leadership specified in the Washington Accord. Hitherto, opinion surveys of both students and teachers have been used as a basis to argue for confidence in the use of peer assessment. My philosopher friends will assert we cannot prove that a peer assessment event is, in fact, valid. Rather, our evidence of validity is indirect and impossible to confirm objectively. Consequently, one approach we can adopt is to identify symptoms that a peer assessment is invalid, then seek to address and eliminate the causes of those symptoms. We should at least acknowledge those symptoms' existence and estimate the impact on our claims for validity. If, furthermore, we have minimised the impact of all known classes of symptoms in a peer assessment, then we can argue, for practical purposes, that the peer assessment is valid. What are the symptoms of invalid peer assessment? Typical symptoms of an invalid peer assessment include skewed ratings, such that most team members are rated above average, the so-called Lake Woebegone effect. Outlier ratings, where a teammate's rating of another teammate has an exceptional positive or negative impact on the average peer assessment score, perhaps on account of favouritism or bullying. Self-enhancement bias, where a student's self-assessment is unrealistically overconfident when compared with the ratings provided by their teammates. Equally, a student may be unrealistically underconfident. Lack of concordance, where the teammates fail to agree on the ratings they gave each other, both relatively and absolutely. Remedies for invalid peer assessments. An effective peer assessment platform identifies these symptoms and suggests remedies to the survey administrator. Typical remedies include request a resubmission from those teams or individuals that deliver extreme skewed or outlier ratings. Standardize the peer assessment results to target the expected statistical distribution. Train the class to more competently use the peer assessment survey rubric. Training can be supported through using a standardized peer assessment rubric, well supported by academic literature and training resources. Coach students with unrealistic self-assessments to value the feedback received from teammates as a basis for developing a more realistic self-appraisal. Where teams lack agreement in their ratings, then encourage the teammates to share and discuss their reasons for their ratings with each other through a constructive peer feedback event. The causes underlying skewed ratings, outlier ratings, and self-enhancement bias are easily detected and readily corrected through the measures I outlined. Consequently, these effects on the validity of a specific peer assessment can be minimal. However, as we shall see in the remainder of this lesson, a lack of agreement, concordance, amongst a team's peer assessment ratings has a negative impact on the accuracy of each teammate's peer assessment score. That has implications for determining fairly a personal grade determined from that peer-assessed score. The student in such teams have strong grounds for claiming an unfair result. Consequently, this lesson explores the issue of peer assessment concordance in further detail. I begin by presenting two cases that explore three questions. Do teammates agree with the ratings they give each other? Can we measure the degree of agreement? To what extent do all the teams in a class rate each other fairly and consistently? How confident are we in the accuracy of peer assessment scores used as the basis for determining a student's mark based on their contribution to teamwork? Prepare for a light show with colours, numbers and statistics as I introduce you to the wonders of concordance analysis as part of our journey to explore these questions. Case 1. In our learning adventure, I will present you with two case examples, the results of which we will compare later. You'll soon see that the first case presents a team in which there is strong agreement about the high performers and low performers. I'll use case 1 to illustrate the concept and measurement of concordance. In case 2, we'll see a contrasting case with much lower agreement amongst another team of students. Fasten your seatbelts, let's begin. Here in case 1, we see a table of peer assessment subscores. In general, these subscores are sourced from a peer assessment survey where each student rates the relative contribution of teammates to the team's output and leadership processes. Typically, the survey measures 5 or 10 different attributes, and these are summed together to produce these peer assessment subscores. For example, student assessor Cameron rated herself 47.5 and her teammate Alexander 87.5. Examine the table. Can you see that the teammates agree amongst each other about the ratings they've given? Frankly, it's difficult to tell the degree of agreement from a quick inspection of the table. Let's colour code each assessor column. I've used red to show the lowest score awarded by the assessor and green to highlight who they rated with the highest subscore. Now you can see clearly that every assessor rates Cameron with their lowest subscore rating in red, even though their actual numeric peer-assessed subscores differ. Similarly, 3 of the 4 students awarded Alexander with their highest subscore in green. There appears to be a high level of agreement, but can we measure that level of agreement? How confident are we in our measures of agreement? How accurate and precise are subsequent calculations of personal contribution grades derived from these peer assessments? Now I've recoded each assessor's data by ranking each subscore rating from 1, green, best in team, to 4, red, poorest in the team. Now it's evident there is almost complete agreement in the relative ranking of the students in the team. Just one of the 4 students, Alexander, disagrees with the rankings of 2 students. Alexander generously ranks Michaela ahead of himself, whereas the rest of the team rates Alexander as the top. We measure the level of agreement amongst rankings using a statistic called the Kendall Concordance Coefficient. The Concordance Coefficient, W, is defined to range from 1, perfect agreement, to 0, complete disagreement. A value of 0, complete disagreement, means you are looking at a table of random numbers. For case 1, you see the concordance coefficient is 0.93, which implies very high agreement. That seems reasonable given our journey through the previous 3 tables. I'll spare you the mathematics until you are ready for your tea break. Once you have calculated Kendall's concordance, you conduct a test for statistical significance. Here the probability statistic of 1.1% calculated from the concordance value informs us that it's very, very unlikely that the subscores awarded by the team were delivered by chance. We are definitely not looking at a table of random numbers. Consequently, a statistician would advise you should reject the null hypothesis that there is no agreement amongst the teammate assessors. I do apologise for the double negative, it's a statistician thing. In layman's language, it's very, very likely in case 1 that the students do agree in their peer assessment ratings. Consequently, you can be very confident in using these peer assessment scores as a fair basis for awarding each student a different personal result for their contribution to the group assignment, their team contribution based grade. Here now are the peer assessed scores for each assessee row, averaged from the subscores of each assessor. Self-assessment scores are generally excluded from the calculation of peer assessed scores. Statistically speaking, we are highly confident that the rank ordering of this set of peer assessed scores within the team is highly accurate. Alexander, flagged green, is definitely the top ranked student, and Cameron, the most poorly ranked, flagged red. I'll return to the topic of accuracy at the end of case 2, which I'll now introduce. In case 2, I explore a team where there is less strong agreement about the peer assessment ratings the teammates awarded each other. This lower agreement has implications for the accuracy and therefore the fairness of grades arising from this team's peer assessment. Here in case 2, you'll suspect from the splattered random palette of colours there is low agreement by the assessors. For example, assessee Steve is rated the lowest by Greg, 70, but most highly by assessor Patrick, 100. Converted to rank orders, the palette of colours reinforces the lack of agreement. But how do you measure the absence of agreement? We use our now trusted Kendall concordance statistic, and here's what results. Nothing escapes Kendall's concordance. The statistics show a low level of concordance. Interpreting the significance of the probability value, our statistician would recommend that we accept there is no agreement amongst the teammate assessors. The table of peer assessments is almost a table of random numbers, even though we can calculate some kind of rank order. A tale of two concordances. Now I'll compare and contrast our tale of two teams. Case 2 shows low concordance, that is, low agreement. Our visual inspection of the horizontal colours suggests we might conclude that assessee Greg is the poorest rank assessee in the team and Steve is the top ranked. However, we are less confident about the relative rankings of the other two students. This lack of concordance has negative implications for the accuracy and precision of this team's results and therefore fairness and validity. The upper table, case 1, in contrast, shows a degree of agreement amongst the peer assessments that is statistically significant. The horizontal lines of a similar colour for each assessee provide face value confirmation of the statistical calculations. The concordance value is almost 1, the maximum possible value that occurs when there is absolutely complete agreement. Now let's explore the implications of what we have discovered for accuracy and fairness. For case 2, we calculate the peer assessed scores as we did in case 1 by averaging the subscores awarded each assessee. The low concordance score suggests we should not be confident about the accuracy of the peer assessed score we have calculated. For each assessee, I've calculated one estimate of the accuracy of each peer assessed score. I've used the standard deviation of the subscores awarded by each assessor. More simply, I could have used the range of values divided by 2. This table illustrates how a higher concordance value is associated with better accuracy in the estimate of each student's true peer-assessed score. For instance, you see that for case 1 with high concordance, the typical accuracy over all the team's results is plus or minus 9. That typical accuracy is better than half that of the typical accuracy for case 2, plus or minus 25, the team with the lower concordance. Focus on Patrick in case 2. Patrick's peer assessed score has an accuracy of plus or minus 40. That is greater than the value of his peer assessed score of 27. If I was Patrick and discovered this lack of accuracy associated with my low peer assessed score, I'd be on the warpath for a regrade, perhaps arguing for a grade of 60, even more. Concordance analysis, correctly deployed as part of a comprehensive peer assessment program, can help reduce the risks of students arguing their peer assessment results are unfair. Concordance analysis is one proactive measure you can take to ensure your peer assessment results are fair and valid, combined with applying such measures as academic policy for group assignments, peer assessment training, and formative feedback. These matters are discussed in our book. How do you conduct concordance analysis? There are 4 approaches you can pursue to conduct concordance analysis on your peer assessment survey results. If you have a few teams, you can use an online calculator. Just paste in your peer assessed scores like those we showed at the start of case 1. The concordance statistics are calculated. You can code your own app using the mathematical formula for Kendall's W, with which I'll alarm you shortly. Create your own spreadsheet by adapting the code provided in a tutorial by Charles Zients, or using the subroutine libraries he recommends. If you have a large number of students and teams, you'll find helpful a utility that analyzes your whole peer assessment dataset, highlighting for attention those teams with the least concordance and the lowest agreement. The Peer Assessment Quality Assurance Probe, PACAP, from PeerAssess Pro, provides this analysis in addition to other measures qualifying the validity of your peer assessment results. Here's the formula to code your own. But wait, there's more. Whatever approach you pursue, you'll need code that implements the extended version of Kendall's concordance statistic. In particular, you must account for situations with tied rankings, a particular occurrence in student peer assessments. You also need to cope with a sparse table of rankings where some peer assessments may be absent and where self-assessments are excluded. In summary, concordance. Concordance analysis of a team's peer assessment ratings provides one quantitative measure of the degree to which a team's ratings are in agreement. Significance. A team's concordance can be tested for statistical significance, which assures confidence in the fairness of personal grades calculated from peer assessment ratings. Accuracy. A higher concordance for a team is associated with a higher accuracy in calculations of contribution-based grades. Consequently, there is less opportunity for dispute by students. Validity. Higher concordance, significance and accuracy contribute towards assuring the fairness and validity of your entire peer assessment event. Outliers. A byproduct of concordance analysis is the identification of extreme outlier ratings by students. Risk management. Improved validity and fairness, combined with outlier analysis, preempt the risk of pushback or complaints by students who might feel disadvantaged by the peer assessment process. The Peer Assessment Quality Assurance Utility Probe, PACAP, available from PeerAssess Pro, calculates team concordance across an entire class with hundreds of teams and thousands of students. PACAP provides several services that help assure the validity of your teammate peer assessment event by focusing your attention on teams that lack significant agreement about the ratings of their teammates, teams that evade their responsibility to rate each other by rating overgenerously, the so-called Lake-Wobegon effect, students whose ratings of others are outliers when compared with the ratings by their teammates, students who are unrealistic, namely those whose self-assessment is overconfident or underconfident when compared with the ratings provided by their teammates, and related evidential qualitative feedback pertaining to these at-risk and unrealistic individuals and teams. In a future video, I'll demonstrate PACAP for large-scale peer assessment events. What are the implications for peer assessment practice? First, add concordance analysis to assure the validity, accuracy, and fairness of your teammate peer assessment practices. Second, focus your coaching and training solely on those teams and individuals who demonstrate low agreement and outlier rating behaviour. Attention here will improve validity, improve fairness, and minimise the risk of pushback by individuals rated poorly. Finally, adopt a comprehensive teammate peer assessment platform that integrates survey management, concordance analysis, and advanced decision support combined with a consistent group work academic policy. Thank you for joining me on this learning adventure. We welcome your inquiries about how PeerAssess Pro can help improve the validity, accuracy, and fairness of your teammate peer assessment program. Please contact our team through PeerAssess Pro or request our online ebook.